Louisiana could be the next frontier for wind energy offshore, but who gets the money? The November 5th ballot includes a proposed change to the state constitution. Sabrina Wilson explains.
With early voting underway, Louisiana residents are also having their say on a proposed change to the state constitution. It asks voters if they support an amendment to require federal revenues that are generated from outer continental shelf alternative or renewable energy production be deposited into the Coastal Protection and Restoration Trust Fund. First, an explanation about the outer continental shelf.
That is the waters that are anywhere from 3 to 200 miles off of Louisiana's coast.
Glenn Leday, executive director of the state's Coastal Protection and Restoration Authority, is not taking a position on the constitutional amendment, but CPRA does oversee the Coastal Protection and Restoration Trust Fund.
So the Coastal Protection and Restoration Trust Fund is the constitutional dedicated trust fund that was created when the agency was created. It dedicates money to obviously protecting and restoring the coast.
This amendment will allocate potential future funding from offshore wind to support coastal restoration.
Liz Russell is with the Environmental Defense Action Fund.
Environmental Defense Action Fund supports Amendment 1.
Leday explained the trust fund's current revenue sources.
On the recurring side, the big source of funding there is what's called GOMESA, the Gulf of Mexico Energy Security Act, and that's where we receive federal revenues from offshore oil and gas production. And then on the non-recurring side, a big one that we often talk about is the Deepwater Horizon spill settlement and other non-recurring revenues like state surplus.
But some say creating more constitutional mandates related to funding only creates headaches for state lawmakers when they need to consider budget cuts.
Is this a good trade-off?
It's critical that we support investments in coastal restoration. It ensures that all of the communities and parts of our lives that we love in Louisiana are funded and supported, that coastal restoration receives investment, and that we continue to have healthy wetlands that reduce risk from storm surge and support our fisheries.
If it's not constitutionally protected, then they can be dedicated to other sources determined by the legislature.
Louisiana is facing a projected budget shortfall, and because of current constitutional protections, health care and higher ed are areas where lawmakers usually look to cut.
Leday says overall coastal restoration is going well.